Welcome back to another episode of Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling, and shall we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today? Normally when I flub the intro like that, I would just retake it, but back when I was like, you know what, let's keep it in. Why not? It's Animal Crossing. We do things one take. That's the point. It's another story if it's like a new series or whatever. Trying to make sure that stays reasonable, but Animal Crossing, we're here for vibes, we're here for good times. But yeah, what are we going to talk about today? I'm not sure, but good evening everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 11:12 PM on Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. I mean, me doing that kind of reminds me of cases where it's like, you get like blooper rolls in a movie or something. Although, probably a bit weird to put a blooper right out the front, or leave a blooper in, if anything. I mean, bloopers are always like some of the underrated, most fun parts of a movie. And back when we used to do bloopers at animated movies, highly underrated. I still think about the Bugs Life ones, bloopers. Toy Story had bloopers as well. Maybe it was just Pixar which had bloopers. But I don't know. There's something about believing not only... how should I put this? It's not so much that fictional world exists, which is a different level of buy-in, to imagining it exists and the thing you just watched was a fictional show inside that fictional world in the first place. Something about that just sort of very much tickles my fancy, because I think it's sort of like the mixing of a fantasy and the mundane or something, you know? The idea, like, it's a stacked layer of fiction, which really doesn't, affect much in the first place. Like, arbitrarily, if it's a fictional piece of media, does it affect much if it's a fictional piece in a fictional piece, or if it's just a fictional piece one layer down? I mean, to a certain degree it does, but I don't know, something about a fictional piece in a fictional piece of media sort of really tickles my fancy. I don't know why. I think it's a very niche sort of thing to be like, yes, this is like a very niche trope, which I love for no apparent reason. I don't know. It's just the idea that I think it's because I'm sort of breaking it down in my head. I think it's because you kind of get two worlds for the price of one. One, you get like a fictional layer world full of, whatever it could be, full of like drama, tension, or something, bad endings, horrible things happening. But then you can have a fictional layer upon a fictional layer where it's like, oh yeah, it turns out they're all, acting, they're all just having a good time. It's all for the drama of the show. And I suppose, oh yes, I didn't know your name as a kid, but there's something about that which feels subversive in a sense, despite the fact that I don't think it's that subversive anymore. I'm trying to think of other things which do that, but there must be a TV trope page for it. Hold on, let's see. TV trope, fictional media has fictional bloopers, animated outtakes, kind of, but this might lead us to what we want. Produce outtakes, then you get people who do it if it's fun, they make animated outtakes. Animated actors, is this what I want? Yes, an animated episode in full swing where action suddenly stops and characters step out character and address an unseen figure. And reveal the actions taking place on an animated TV soundstage. This is it. Like, the animated actors. I genuinely think it is because you get two for the price of one. You can have like a dramatic or horror film story where everyone's enemies, people hate tragic things, which are just so delicious, and I love that bittersweet sort of endings. I often talk about how much I like sad endings, but then you also get the sort of the comfort as well to reside in, being like, oh yeah, they're all actors who enjoy each other's company, so it's all fine. It's just something about it is really fun. Let's see, there's apparently example subpages, films, animation. A Bug's Life and Toy Story 2, exactly. That's what I said. Big Bad Fox and Upper Tales, I've never heard of this one. It's a French animation thing. Hold on. We're gonna... Wreck-It Ralph does it in universe with video game characters. That's true. But Wreck-It Ralph feels different, I think. I don't know why it feels different. Mainly because the video games do exist in our world, right? It's sort of like giving... It feels like half a step, 1.5 steps rather than a full 2 steps down of things. Apparently Martin's Pony Equestria Girls does this. I actually think I do remember this. See, animated outtakes, just such an underrated part. Which is, I mean, genuinely, it must just be for the fun of it, because, like, you don't really get much else out of it by doing so. It's not like people necessarily pay attention to that sort of thing. It's not a thing, not the part which people just go like, oh yeah, I'm gonna stay and watch, you know, this thing, and then subconsciously purchase media about it because of the animated outtakes it does. That's perhaps a little bit excessive, but I don't know. I think it just is a very delicious sort of cherry on top with things, which makes it sort of engaging in its own right, no? I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm doing it justice, of like the world in a world idea, because that is, I think, fundamentally what makes it appealing, is that you get double duty of fictional worlds with the same character which you can interact with, you know. It allows you to be able to be like, oh yeah, let's engage with it. It's kind of like having a world and then having a built-in AU world on top of it, and often the AU world is quite different to the actual world it would present, right? Yeah. But I'm trying to think of other things which have it. Did I didn't close the TV tropes page, did I? No, I didn't. It's kind of wild how many different sub-genres of media properties they have in this TV tropes folder. Puppet shows, very common in the Muppet productions, makes sense. Radio. Toys. Lego Studios. Featured many sets. Okay, I can get with that. Subpages, anime and manga. Let's see. Which of these have I actually seen? Probably not a lot of these. I don't think I've seen any of these so far. Lucky Star. Oh yeah. Lucky Star has it as well. They have like a post-interview sort of thing, where they have someone who talks about like what goes on in the show or something. Although it doesn't, it's a bit weird because it's not so much about acting per se. It's more like their lives are fictional in the context of the show, kind of. Does that make sense? I don't know. I think that's the only one I've seen of this though. But it's a very classic thing to just sort of add as like an addendum, or like what we called over for an anime, right? Because I mean, it's not something that you particularly want to do that often, because it kind of breaks the sort of meta narrative for a lot of universes. And I understand it's certainly not something you should do for all of them, because it kind of, I don't know, part of it is while it gives another sort of layer of like an additional AU on top, if it is such an engaging, like for example thriller genre, the base of a one layer down fictional media property, going a second fictional layer down to be like, oh, none of it existed, none of it was real, kind of, despite the fact that on the core none of it is real in the first place, it kind of gives a weird sort of, almost like it takes away from the severity of the impact in a way, which I know it doesn't feasibly make sense, but I think it's not because of the fact that it's fictional in a fictional world, like because of a layer of disconnect. I don't think it's because of that it makes it lessen the impact, but I think it's because it feels like it's a conscious choice by whoever created it, right, to almost sort of pull back a bit and be like, hey, this is another sort of like safe way to engage with these characters, you know, these tragic things didn't necessarily happen to them, which, you know, I don't think that's necessarily bad or good either way. I think it's dependent on each media property, right, whether it's an appropriate thing or not. But I do love it, I think, in most cases, mainly because I think, I don't know, I guess it doesn't feel like the impact is lessened when I see it. It's just sort of like, oh, you know, interesting. But yeah, I wonder, as an animator, is it more fun to work on the animated outtakes? or not. I mean, hopefully as an animator you kind of like working on all of it, but more depending on the crunch levels, I suppose. But like I think it's very common for, especially like video game development, I hear all the time people just put Easter eggs in video games mainly because they want to break from doing the main thing, and it's just sort of something silly that they worked on the side. I gotta imagine it's quite similar for animation, right? Although I don't know. I guess part of me just sort of wonders, like I wonder if it's worth the effort which is used for it. I don't see why it wouldn't be necessarily, but it's the sort of thing where it's like, if anything, I think it sort of reveals a lot about the human nature, right? It does not add anything necessarily to the artistic direction of what's going on. It's something which not a lot of people appreciate, and it's only for the tiniest of moments, but still requires the same amount of effort to put into it. But people still do it just for fun of it, right? I think that has its own charm, you know, in a way. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a really good example of it. It's a bit hard to think of one off the top of my head. But still, it's just the idea of it. It's a lot of fun. But it's also a bit weird now I think about it as well, because obviously there's a lot of work which goes into it. Like the animators have to unpurposely animate, you know, something wrong. The voice actors have to act unpurposely to say a line wrong or something. And then you had to have other things as well, like the camera coming down to sort of be like, oh yeah, you don't need to hold the camera up like that anymore, it comes down because of a blooper, you know. You have like a fictional character come in and say cut. I don't know, I think it just gives I think I just like it still, even with those necessary shortcomings, I suppose you might describe them, but the shortcomings still give it like a different sort of sense of character. I think the funniest thing as well is often when a character just acts completely different to how they are. You know, characters like really, really nice or something in the show, but then their actor character is like an absolute diva or something, or the other way around. It just gives as they say in anime, gap moe, which I'd probably classify more as just like a sort of dichotomy of personality, you know. It's like when it happens in real life because it literally is something from real life, right? Or actors in fictional media. Like when a villain in a fictional media property is just the sweetest person or something. It gives it a lot of fun sort of vibe to it. League of Legends apparently did it. Oh, for a very first promotional cinematic. Oh yeah, I think I vaguely remember that. I don't think I played a lot of these games though. Warcraft 3, Pac-Man World 1, Mario Power Tennis. I don't know, stuff like that is sort of fun. Freedom Planet, the Sonic-like game, live action TV. How does that even work, isn't it? Oh, the animated Lizzie McGuire. Not the animated show, the animated segments, get it? Okay, I see. Western animation, what about in here? Cartoon Network. Sheep in a Big City did this constantly. I only vaguely remember Total Drama. Was it not? What? Although they're more animated reality show contestants, other shows in the universe include Celebrity Man. Okay, yes, because Total Drama is an animated reality TV show, which I think got a reboot not too long ago, right? Don't know how popular it was, but it's just as animated by what the contestants are in a regular reality show. Yeah. I don't know, that feels different, right? But animated actors. I don't know. I think I didn't think about it now, but that's one of my favourite sort of cutaway gags, to be honest. A fictional blooper. Because, I don't know, just something, because it's just so, it doesn't need to exist necessarily. It was something deliberately put in just for the sake of amusement, right? But yeah, I don't know what else I was going to say about that, to be honest. A fictional blooper. Can I think of another good example? I don't know. I'm trying to imagine it in like shows which don't have it. Like imagine Riot Arcane had a fictional blooper sort of thing. Like a really dramatic moment and then they just suddenly cut away and like Vi's laughing or something. Just being like, sorry, can we take that again? Again, I don't think it's something which every show should do, or if it should be, it shouldn't be attached to the main show. Maybe it's just something like a fictional blooper put in just for the fun of it, right? I mean, it's quite funny in like horror-based shows, right? It's a thing which I know that I've seen people do. Is that like after watching something super spooky and horror, they watch a behind-the-scenes other one, because then it sort of takes away the horror element. When you sort of see the monster just being silly to the camera, you get to see all the crew behind the scenes working towards it, right? I think that's a very smart thing. If you find horror movies or horror media particularly scary, go look at some behind the scenes of it afterwards. Recontextualize it in your head as a fictional media property. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like fake bloopers, you know? Well, not fake, because fake makes it sound like it would be like a real, like a pretend blooper which didn't actually happen. But when it's a deliberately fictional blooper, that's probably the way to put it. I don't know. Top tier trope. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to round this episode up here. So if you haven't been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again. But for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye bye for now.